Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Frank is in the Substack, as well as Marge K. Hirut Kidain Merian from San Diego, California. We also have Adam W. Welcome, Adam. We also have John A. Davis from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Beautiful city. I love Minneapolis, Minnesota in the summer. I went to Minneapolis for the Netroots convention a few years ago. I also like Madison, Wisconsin, which kind of remind that same kind of flavor. Madison, Wisconsin, with all the cafes downtown. Went there for the Democracy Convention. Jerry Stout, welcome aboard. But of course, we have bringing up the beginning is El Senor Michael Rudden from Brooklyn, New York. Michael, I hadn't seen your Facebook message. I've got to go look. I get so many messages from so many different areas. Sometimes I miss them, so I'll go look for that as far as setting that thing up. I haven't set it up in a while, so I will go ahead and check it out for you, my dear brother. Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia. Welcome aboard. We also have Paul says NPR, a whistleblower complaint saying that personal data of over 300 million American Social Security data. But you know what, Fleming? We knew that. We knew when Doge went in there with those laptops and what they did. We reported on that here on Politics Done Right. We did it here. All right, Eric Hayes is in the house from Atascocita, Kingwood, as well as Joe from Los Angeles, California. We also have in the house Patrick Magner says meow from Houston, Texas. And we have, of course, my dear brother that I need to bring his stuff for him. Bruce Pollard, what's on deck today? What is not a mess? We got to talk about. Before I get into the subject that I'm going to discuss, I wanted to talk about changing the subject and why we must not. Carl Cox is in the house from Riverdale, Georgia. Carl Cox says mashed potato, yes. Gravy, no. But Bruce Pollard says he's in Kingwood today. Are you going to be leaving anytime soon, my brother? Let me know. By the way, I am going to today is the Dan Patrick is going to be doing his town hall here today. I'll be going to Dan Crenshaw's town hall. We'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens. Anyway, let's see. Welcome aboard. Oh, look, Hirut. I have sisters in San Diego. San Diego is beautiful, no doubt about it. Right near desert, but beautiful. VLT joined us. K Jip joined us, as well as Frank, who says, when liberal men get prostate cancer, they find out that feminists in Congress made sure that 3 times more taxpayers' funds are spent on breast cancer than prostate cancer. Really? Is that really true? I think we've always spent a lot on men's diseases, but I don't have the numbers, so I will be quiet. FemK joined, but I don't think that's a true assessment, Frank. Give me your evidence. All right. Let's see. And I guess Adam comes back real quick. Then Trump kill a whole lot of stuff, a lot of research, just about all. Yeah, absolutely. Lee Grant is in the house from Montgomery County. All right. Let me get into the monologue. Look, Democrats, if they sit down and play Trump's game, they will lose. They will lose. America has had a crime problem forever. America is a very violent country. America is a very violent country with guns. America is a very violent country with some of the individualism that we preach. Very much so. Now Donald Trump it has said today, finally, I spoke about this a week ago when he first started this law and order BS, that what Donald Trump wants to do is change the subject. Folks, I want you to listen to this, and I want you to listen to this well. Donald Trump wants to change the subject, and he wants to find one that sticks. And the subject that he thinks will stick is people fearing for their safety. But what is it that they fear from their safety? Being gunned down at a mall, being gunned down in their urban neighborhoods, being gunned down at a bus stop. That's what they fear. But what Republicans and their agents are doing has nothing to do with law and order. And in fact, there are two avenues Democrats need to take. But they are so wimpy too often that likely they'll take neither. Every time they speak about a crime wave, don't just say crime is down, which it is down by a bunch. But don't just go say crime is down. Go out there and make the fight a duality. And how do you make a fight a duality? Number one, crime is rampant in the cities because Republicans are tolerating gun sales. Guns don't appear in the inner cities. Gun doesn't appear on the countryside. Gun doesn't appear in the hands of criminals unless we have the regulations imposed by Republicans that create this particular type of violence. Because that's what they fear. The violence that they fear is a violence they see on TV. It's people getting gunned down. And where those guns come from? The NRA. The NRA is supporting these guns being unfettered on our streets. So therefore, bring it on. Bring on the crime argument, and we'll turn it into a gun rights argument. But then you flip the switch on that, because what Donald Trump doesn't want you talking about is what the big, beautiful bill is going to do to everybody. The big, beautiful bill is going to cut people insurance, and the amount of people that are going to die per year in Chicago is going to be more than the 574 killed by guns in Chicago. So Donald Trump will be responsible for killing Chicagoans, for killing Houstonians, for killing LAs, for killing New Yorkers, because his bill will kick people off of health care, which will make them sick and die. You have to frame the argument on your terms. You don't go into this fight making him dictate the terms. You dictate the terms. You are the one with the moral values. You are the one with the moral argument. But will they forcefully go on TV and say, no, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the reason. We're not going to talk about crime rates are falling. We're going to talk about crime rates are there. We don't need to talk about it fall or not. We have been bringing crime rates down, even with what Donald Trump and Republicans have been doing to keep a trainload of arms coming into our cities. The Republicans are populating our cities with arms. They're loading our cities with arms. And we are bringing down crime even as they continue to do that. Again, again, you have to take command of the argument. It is we who have the moral high ground. It is we who have the factual high ground. It is we who have the rights. You don't let criminals dictate the discussion. You don't let criminals dictate the narrative. You don't let criminals dictate what we're gonna do. Dead people are dead people are dead people. And Donald Trump and Republicans are killing them in every way you can kill people. One, by having unfettered access to guns. Two, by not giving health care. Three, by starving people by taking away their food, food stamps, SNAP, etc. Four, by throwing folks into poverty, and poverty brings death. This argument is not difficult to make. Five, by closing rural hospitals and killing your rural constituents. I mean, it is so easy for Democrats to hold the bull by the horns. And this argument works in the inner city. This argument works in rural America. This argument works in suburban America. You know how I know? Because I ask questions of my red Republican folks. So it's like, when I bring that up, it's like, oh, I never thought about it that way. I never thought about it that way. But again, you have to set the narrative. So to Donald Trump, who wants to make this a law and order narrative, law and order 2026, we say, no, we're going to make it a life or death 2026. We will make it a life or death 2026. You want to live? You support the policies that we are going to purport here. You want to die? You support the policies of the Republicans. It's that simple. And how do you die under Republicans? You die under Republicans by cutting SNAP. You die under Republicans by cutting health care. You die under Republicans by closing rural hospitals. You die under Republicans by not having a farmer be able to fix his own equipment, and then as such, go into poverty. You die in America by being poor. You want to come back with an answer, Republicans? You want to come back with an answer? You don't have one. Don't allow a perplexed mind to do that. Don't allow it. We have the moral argument. We have the moral narrative. And unless we get out on our butts and not cower into saying, oh no, how are we going to talk about him bringing the military into to protect our cities? You go out there and stand in front of a hospital, stand in front of a poorhouse, stand in front of these places and bring the cameras with you and say, if Donald Trump wants to. By the way, in DC, where the military can go anywhere, if he takes the military to the guard to New York or Chicago, they can only work on federal property. They can't go ahead and do policing, posse comitatus. They can't do it, right? Legally speaking, they can't do it. But in DC, they can be anywhere in DC. So what you need to do is go into that bad neighborhood in DC where there's crime that is rampant and call out, Donald Trump, here is where we need some help. Where are you? You're at the monument where the TV cameras are. Where are you in Timbuktu, DC? Nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. Again, you choose to take the bull by the horns. And you know why you win? You know why you win? Because we're right. You win because we know the truth. We are the moral ones. You don't allow immorality to inculcate the minds of the feeble. You feed the mind to move it from a feeble mind to a critically thinking mind. And that is what you got to do. I've got 2 videos. The sum total of these 2 videos are about 30 minutes. So before I go to the video, I want to know if anybody wants to call in real quickly and make a comment. Before I go, that is 281-623, no, 281-823, 281-823-7747. If anybody wants to call in to comment onto my monologue, give me a call now, because after this, we're going to 2 videos, one on elections and one from a very, actually, I'm going to do the one with the representative first. Let's see. I'm going to do the one with the representative first. But if anybody wants to call now, call now. I'm going to take calls for about 5 minutes. 281-823-7747. 281-823-7747. Anybody wants to add to the discussion? Yep. Let's see. Exactly. I don't see the National Guards going into gangland. It's all nonsense. Exactly. And that is where all these crime statistics are coming from. The crime statistics are coming from elsewhere. And we've got to remember that. All right. I'm going to wait 3 more minutes before I move on. So, folks, it's important. Egberto, if no calls, you have a bunch of comments to read out. That's true. Let's see what kind of comments I got here. Let's see. I'm going to scroll from the bottom up because the scroll is on top. We got Lee Grant that says the ease of buying guns, especially assault battlefield weapons, look no further than the Las Vegas and school shootings. Exactly. We turned the argument right back on them. Michael says 2/3 of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, roughly the same, have less than $1,000 saved up for an emergency. This is a problem due to stagnant wages and lack of universal health care. Only one party wants actual fix to the problems. Again, we don't let them change the subjects from what really ails America. We don't let them change the subject at all. What else? Lee Grant says we need the arms to protect ourselves from. No, again, you are the ones selling the arms to the criminals. Donald Trump's people are the ones selling the arms to the criminals. Don't forget it. These criminals don't make arms. They don't know how to make guns. Look who make the guns. Look who make the drugs. Again, we have to start grabbing the bull by the horns and not be timid in the way we throw the accusations out, because we are right. Michael Radner says something like 60,000 Americans die every year because they don't have adequate timely access to healthcare. That's more than 20,000 or so total homicide. There we go. Again, we just need to throw those things out but again, you don't just throw it out as statistics, right? You don't throw it out as statistics, because as one of my, the people that I interviewed at Netroot says, people forget statistics quickly. You instantiate it. You remember all those people that were gunned down in Chicago where 4 people died? Those guns were sold by the proteges of Donald Trump. That's how they got gunned down. Because Donald Trump, they can go over state lines in Indiana and buy guns. They can go to Indiana and buy guns. That is how Donald Trump got guns into all of these places. It is so important. It is so important that we get it right. All right. Let's go to the first video and then we'll move on, since I got no calls. There we go. Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today I have a special guy. I just found him roaming. We're talking about Justin Pearson.
It's so good to see you.
State rep from Tennessee.
Absolutely.
How you doing, my friend?
I am doing fantastic. Good to be here with you.
You know, the amount of times I've watched you on TV giving the system hell have really made me proud of the new generation. People, we have this young man here. He won his election twice.
3 times.
3 times, because actually you got recalled and you had to get reelected.
Absolutely.
And they tried to get rid of him because he's outspoken, and because he stands up for his constituencies, because he stands up for his country and his state, Tennessee. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I lived outside of D.C. for a little while. My dad went to Howard University and got his master's degree before moving back home. I got into activism and advocacy when I was 15 years ago in high school, demanding textbooks for myself and my peers. And since then, I've just continued to build on the work that we deserve more, and we need more investment, we need more care, we need more concern about our issues, about our communities. And it will be 5 years ago where a $1 billion company, a Valero oil refinery and Plains All American, came into our neighborhood and said, we're going to build a 49-mile pipeline through this black neighborhood. And I started to organize and galvanize with our community, black folks, white folks, my predecessor, Dr. Barbara Ward Cooper, and others, to defeat the project. And we won, and we were successful. And when she passed away in 2022, I wanted to continue her legacy and work, both in the environment, and now I do that work with Bold Alliance, to dealing with some of the other issues impacting our community, like gun violence. It's been the honor of my life serving this district.
Tell us a little bit about what happened with the state legislature when the good old boys try to get you, I think Justin Jones and
Gloria Johnson. Yeah. I mean, March 27, 2023, the largest mass shooting in Tennessee history happened at the Covenant School, a private Christian school, and 6 people were killed. 3 of them were 9-year-old children. After that happened, it was actually the day that I was fully sworn in to be a state representative after the general election. And 7,000 people came to the Capitol the next time we were there. No Republican even recognized them. We weren't allowed to recognize them and thank them for being there or anything like that. And Justin, Gloria, and I knew we had to do something. We got all these people who just want to be seen, who want to be heard. We're being denied. Our mics are being cut off. Justin and I's voting machines being turned off. And so we went to the well of the House floor and said, we have to listen to these thousands of people who've gathered asking for us to do something. 71%
constituents.
Our constituents. 71% of people in Tennessee, including MAGA Republicans, want for there to be more gun safety laws, like red flag laws, that say, you know what, if you are having a mental health crisis, you probably shouldn't have access to a firearm. MAGA Republicans included.
Right.
And so why aren't we passing more just laws to deal with that? The majority of people who are family farmers or who are living in places where there's more flooding happening, there's hotter days leading to more heat strokes. We just had a young boy, 16 years old, die from a heat stroke playing football in Memphis, Tennessee. The extreme weather incidences requires people to say, what are we going to do about our climate? What are we going to do about our environment? And the people who are in position of power are refusing to listen, are refusing to be engaged, refusing to be activated. And so that's our work. That's our responsibility now.
Well, I mean, and why did they? Now, you guys went out and protested.
We did.
And what did the legislature do?
Exactly. So we went to the well of the House floor and protested, listened to the people who had gathered. And a week later, Justin and I were expelled. Gloria, who was white, was spared from expulsion. But we both lost our seats and had to be reinstated.
So let's get this clear. The Tennessee legislature expelled 2 duly elected
That's correct.
state representatives
That's correct.
from the legislature.
That's exactly right.
And you had to run again in what you call these elections.
Yes, in a primary and a general election. We had to do both.
To reclaim your seat.
To reclaim our seat. And both of us wanted to run again. Both of us did run again. Both of us won. And before that, we were reappointed, actually, by our local legislative bodies who said, you know what? It was unjust that you all were expelled in the first place. Go back. And we did.
So, I mean, you all around, it was just a sham that they attempted
it was a complete sham. I mean, they are beholden to the National Rifle Association, the Tennessee Firearms Association, folks like that. They don't care about the people. They're not concerned about how we end this gun violence epidemic that is killing people every single day. Right now, in the United States of America, more children die from gun violence than anything else. Cancer or car wrecks used to be the things that people were most terrified about with young children under the age of 18. It's not the case anymore. It's bullets. That's how our kids are dying, from bullets. Whether they be intentional shootings, whether they be by suicide, whether they be homicides, we are losing our next generation due to gun violence that is completely and utterly preventable.
And the Tennessee legislature comprised of people who claim to be right, that they believe in the sanctity of life,
right,
are the ones that are not passing these laws.
Exactly.
That even MAGA Republicans
Because
want.
exactly, and that's the thing is really important for us to realize in our politics when it comes to issues like clean energy. And I do work with Bold Alliance, and I am helping to lead a movement leaders hub, bringing together state and local leaders. And what I'm realizing, talking to these folks from all across the country, is this: these Republicans aren't beholden to the people; they're beholden to corporations. Their laws aren't about legislation for their constituents.
Mm-hmm.
It's about laws for the lobbyist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why our politics is so going in such the wrong direction. It's because we are not centering the people in the lawmaking.
What's interesting, Justin, is and you're young enough to be able to break the mold of what the old Democratic Party was. The old Democratic Party would just stay in Memphis. The old Democratic Party would just stay in Nashville. They won't expand themselves to, let's say, many of the rural areas. When we know that many of these rural areas controlled by these folks who care nothing about them.
That's right.
If you go in there and show that you care.
That's right.
You care. They may actually start listening to you instead of listening to the consultants up in Washington that says if we peace here and peace there,
right. You
expand
can't take away the authenticity of being concerned about the lives of people. I mean, I've had the good fortune to travel to Nebraska, right, meeting folks on their family farms that they've had and that they homesteaded, right, and talk about issues related to indigenous communities as well as homesteading and the conflicts there. I've been, whether it be in Maine or in Memphis, the issues that we are concerned about are similar. And if we continue to put people at the center, operate with a level of compassion, and speak plainly and clearly about what we believe needs to happen in order for us to live into the type of society we want, we're going to be all right. But if we think that we can pay all these consultants to tell us how to have authentic conversation, to tell us how to knock on a door and meet somebody where they're at, we're never going to be successful. I don't think that there's a steel worker. I don't think that there's a farmer. I don't think that there's LGBTQIA advocate out of New York that I can't talk to. We got to just be able to have conversation because we want the same things.
Right. It is amazing because that we have to break out of doing things the way it has always been done.
That's exactly right.
And that is why I am putting so much value and putting so much effort in saying, guys like Justin Pearson, thank you. You guys are doing the real job and keep holding the bull by the horns and not listening to what the others are trying to tell you to keep a low profile. You got to go out there and do just what you're doing right now.
Well, I thank you for making it possible, but thank you for also elevating it, because that's the other thing. We got to have some backup and some support when we do those things, because
you got it here, brother. You got it here, brother. You got it here. But let me tell you this. Tell me what should I have asked you that I didn't?
Oh, that's a great question. I think one of my biggest motivations for being in this fight, being in this movement for justice rooted in love, is family. And, I was fortunate a couple of weeks ago to get married to the love of my life, Ocean A. Gilliam Pearson. But also I have 3 nephew sons who I'm helping to raise. I have parents, brothers, and a community that's just extraordinary. And we always have to remember not just what we're fighting against, right? Authoritarianism and white supremacy and fascism and capitalistic exploitation and plantation economics, right? There's a lot of things that we're fighting against. But we always have to remember, what are we fighting for? Because it will be that sustains us in these difficult moments and times. And so those are some things I'm fighting for.
State Representative, Tennessee State Representative, Justin Pearson. Let me tell you, first of all, 1, I'm proud by you.
Thank you.
Of you. 2, I'm inspired by you.
Oh, God bless you.
And 3, you go kick some you know what.
Absolutely. Let's do it together.
Brother.
Thank you so much.
Right,
I appreciate you.
All right. Absolutely. So now I want you guys to understand this, right? First of all, let me correct Lee Grant. Lee Grant says hard to address gun violence without including urban pathologies. That is I love you, brother, but that is the most ignorant statement I think I've ever heard. There is no difference between urban pathology and rural pathology with these guys with guns that go shoot up a honky tonk. Okay, the pathologies are identical. There's a segment of poverty. There's a segment of education. There's a segment of all those things, and these people all behave the same. Don't allow the media that you listen to make your racist proclivities emote themselves. Okay, because it's not becoming. The reality is, okay, violence, even in the inner city, is a product. Violence is in the inner city is a product of what our economic system has done. Again, the inner city doesn't produce guns. The inner city doesn't produce fentanyl. The inner city doesn't produce all the drugs and guns that get into the inner city. They didn't just appear there. There are capitalists putting all of that in there. Let's be very, very clear. If you want to know the genesis of the evil in the inner cities, look at the capitalists that are funding the manufacture of these drugs. Look at the capitalists that are manufacturing these guns and drugs, because none of that originates itself in the inner city. None of that originates itself in the rural brothers and sisters in Appalachia that are doing the same things. My daughter, as she drove through Appalachia, she saw ghettos that made the ghettos in Houston look like Empire State buildings. So let's be very clear here. Educate yourself and stop falling into the stupor. Stop falling into the mental destruction that the right is doing to many of your minds. Because that mental destruction is going to so affect you as the big, beautiful bill comes to fruition. Because all of you are going to be screwed. Let's go to the second interview. It is a very good interview. Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Today we are honored to have Lulu Friedstat and Bennie Smith with the 501c3, How to Protect the Midterms. Bennie is the state of Tennessee's state election commissioner, and Lulu is the co-founder of the organization Smart Elections. Welcome to Politics and Right.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so kindly for being with us. As we all know, the elections in America over the last maybe 12 years have become suspect, something that we've never thought about before. What's the genesis of your 501c3? Why did you create this 501c3?
So one of the very, very first things that we talk about, we did a training yesterday here at Netroots, and one of the first things that we want people to understand is that this is not so new. People are now very hyped up and aware of this, and actually the polls are showing that more and more people do not trust the results of the election. It's actually an NBC poll out, and it said that 41% of Harris voters do not believe that Donald Trump was legitimately elected, and 70% of Trump voters do not believe that Biden was legitimately elected. And when you put those stats together, you come up with 53% of voters who participated in the last two election cycles do not have confidence in the results. But if you go back historically, you will find that election controversy and fraud and mistakes and all kinds of really problems with our elections have been there from the beginning. And we talked about this at the training. Even historically, there's a very well-researched paper by Joseph P. Harris, what was published by a mainstream organization, the Brookings Institution, talking about all of the fraud and corruption in the elections, and that was in the 30s. So it's really important for us. People are very uncomfortable talking about this. They feel stigmatized. They don't want to speak out. But when we start to think about it as something that has existed, but that we just haven't spoken about in the past, that we haven't been educated about, it becomes much more comfortable.
Well, in America, we are perfect. So we can't have bad elections. We can't have bad anything.
Right.
You have to remember that.
It's perfect.
We are perfect. Bennie, were these last elections secure or not?
No, they weren't. But it's been a taboo topic for the longest. I was covered on I think it was PBS,
Mm-hmm.
and they followed me around for a day. It was Miles O'Brien, who's a renowned journalist, and they were looking at how we did our election process in Tennessee. And one of the things that they were highlighting in that whole bit was that if you go from the jurisdictions and ask people what they think about their election processes, I even said on that, and I was like, well, it's anybody's guess. Software and hardware, they need to be relegated to a certain place in part of the electoral process. We think that you have to have computers through and through. I'm very much a Luddite. I write code. We were talking about that in the beginning.
Yeah, we do.
And unless I know who wrote that code, I really am not.
Because there are back doors everywhere.
There are front doors everywhere.
Holes everywhere.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is one of the things we talked about in the training. There are so many security problems currently, and we highlight just one in the training, and that is a router that is an approved piece of equipment from the Election Assistance Commission. It's made by Cisco. It's the RV340 router, and yet it has been on the site of the National Vulnerability Database since 2022 with a known vulnerability that Cisco actually published saying that anybody can access that router and get administration privileges, and that it is completely insecure, that the vulnerability cannot even be mitigated in any way, no protection from it. And Cisco is not putting out any patches on it because they have stopped security supporting that piece of equipment since 2022. 3 years out, it's been unprotected and known vulnerable. And yet it is still in the recent list of EAC, U.S. government listed approved equipment. It is listed right there on ES&S, which is used in about at least 60% of the counties.
Now, is that still, you're still using it because you're the state election commissioner. You're still using that in
So I'm not
Now
here
you're going to get personal.
I'm not here representing the state of Tennessee. However,
I get it. You're right. You're right about that, right?
However, we are in charge of certifying the equipment. So anything that is on the EAC's currently certified list of hardware and software would be something that would be approved at the state level. And so, again, like, this is such a nonpartisan issue. These issues were long, 2008, 2010, 2000, and they've persisted. They're just more magnified now because the country has reached that feverish pitch of the polarization.
when you have a population that people claim is 50-50, it's not, but people claim that it's 50-50.
It's not even close.
They actually, it opens the door for, in those gaps, to create, as you know, in software, it's very, very easy to create those problems. So let me ask you this. I asked you when you just came, and I said, are you working on the technical side? You said you're working on all sides.
And what do you mean by on the technical side? In terms of let's talk about the,
I can work at, there could be bugs in a computer that forces elections, or there can be design in systems that induce people to vote the way you want. There are a lot of
procedures and policies.
Right.
They're even run the gamut. There are numbers. So you can talk about the front end.
Right. So I think it's important for people to understand conceptually that there are different parts of the election that we want to protect. And historically, especially for progressives and Democrats, all of the emphasis is on what we call the front end of voting. And that is getting people to the polls, making sure they're registered, making sure they're not intimidated. Do they need a ride? Has their registration been purged? All of that. We call that front end, okay? There is also middle and back end of the voting process. The problem with the Democrats and the progressives is that they have this idea that after they cast their vote, it is counted by magical elves.
And that it's
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
The amount of technology that is currently in our elections is really almost, I would say, like 90%. So many parts have been digitized. When you go into the polls now, you are going to sign in on an electronic poll book. Then you're going to get a ballot, probably. It could possibly be printed out by a ballot on demand printer. There's problems that can happen with that. You could actually be printed out the wrong ballot. And then you're actually even voting for candidates that you're not legally allowed to vote for. Or your ballot could be printed out on a computer. The computer might or might not print what you pick on the touchscreen because the touchscreen might not be calibrated correctly. Or there could be malware running in the computer. And even though it shows you the text and it says that I'm voting for Egberto, right? But in actuality, there's a barcode and the barcode is counted for a different candidate. We've actually seen instances of that happening. We know that that has happened. Then it's going to print you a ballot, and you're going to take it and you are going to scan it into another computer. And then that computer is going to digitize, take a digital picture of the ballot, because it doesn't even count the paper.
Yeah.
It counts the digital picture.
Right.
And then it's going to put it on a flash card, which is also programmable. And, you know, there are problems that
it
can
has
happen
different
there.
stages. So
That's
let-
about
Right?
40 different handoffs.
so now that's
And
that's 2 levels we covered. What's the last level?
Right, that's the middle. Exactly. I see you're with us. Okay, now you're going to go to what we call the back end. Now those flash drives with all of the results on them are going to go into other computer systems, election management systems.
Right.
The votes are going to be aggregated, and then they're going to be sent out through probably the internet and go to counties,
Like your television screen,
Yeah.
you see the scroll.
the media,
Scroll that you see.
county websites where, you know, Benny's working. And so you have so many different points where you could just have accidents where things go wrong. Like say that the spreadsheet in the voting machine and the spreadsheet in the election management system get misaligned because somebody you added another candidate and you added it to the spreadsheet on the ballot machine, but on the voting machine, but you forgot to add that candidate on the election management spreadsheet. Now all of your votes from one
Shifted down
candidate
one row.
are going to go to another candidate. It's
Right.
going to be misaligned, and it's going to go that way all the way down the ballot. The wrong votes are going to go to the candidate. That might not be malware. That might just be a mistake, but we are not doing enough audits, and we do not have enough people in the polling place collecting data to be checking all of these things.
So now you've defined the problem, and now you have a 501c3 that you've created to work with the problem. What does your 501c3 do?
So Smart Elections has been around for about 5 years, and we have a number of different platforms. One is education. That's like talking to you and getting people aware of the problem. But the Election Protection Program is a really big part of what we do. And we've been able to do smaller pilot programs. So for example, in New York City, we ran a pilot program. And the first one we ran in 2021, that was where the mayor, Eric Adams, won the primary, which really placed him to become the mayor. In that primary, which was the very first time we did election protection, we found a polling location where they had almost 700 more ballots scanned than voters who had checked in.
Why?
Well, they never told us. We did 6 public records requests to try to find out, was that just a mistake or was the ballot box actually being stuffed? Did they actually scan in 698 more ballots for a candidate? We could not find out. But we are organized. That was the very first time we did it. Now we really are at the point where when we find mistakes, we go to court. So now in 2024, we found a polling place in this was the New York City primary, and this was a very contested election for the New York Assembly where the son of the chair of the Democratic Party won. And it looked very suspect. There were 16 more ballots that were scanned than voters who signed in, and then a whole slew of other things, like poll workers telling people that they were taking cash under the table in order to tell people to vote for a particular candidate.
So
That's just one example.
Right?
Yeah.
So
one
when
example that you found.
But we took that to court. So now we are at the point where we are organized and we understand the process and we have protections in place to locate problems and either tell people there's no problems as far as we can tell and we have confidence in this election, or we have located problems and we need to take action.
So you go into different district or different precincts and throughout the country. Do you take a sample of precincts that you're going to go to, or do you? What?
This is the sample man right here. Talk to him.
We look at it all.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, we look at it all. So one of the things that really got a lot of traction was the poll tapes. Many people don't realize that that's like a cash register receipt at a grocery store. And so when I got involved into election
This
integrity,
501, yeah.
I was on the other end. I was on the front end where I've written this forecast model that predicts who will walk into the booth. And so a number of candidates came to me. Well, every candidate loses, swears that the election was stolen. There were like 9 in Memphis that came to me. And so I'm a software developer. So just out of respect for them, I said, I'll take a look at it. And so I found some really disturbing stuff of how the computers work and how they operate. It's all bad. It really needs to be replaced. But through that study, I was just trying to track, all of these pieces of these handoffs from software to hardware to software to hardware. And I took a picture of a poll tape, and it was a literal photocopy of what they posted in the window at 7 p.m. at the end of the election. It was 548 people who had participated. But when it hit the election management system and was put out for certification, those 548 votes was 330. And so there is just no way to get there in addition, right? You got to do subtraction or division. And so Bloomberg.
And you said that fast, but so people should really understand this. The poll tape, when you're in the polling location.
Oh, no, we understand that.
That's
no,
like.
That is common practice. That is common practice.
Okay.
Yeah, you take a picture of the thing and then you have the back end.
That's supposed to be exact.
Yeah.
Now you're missing 30% of your votes.
Oh, yeah. I get that.
Bloomberg got a hold of that, and they came down. They did a investigation, and they investigated it, and that caused our election administrator to retire. And
we're in an interview, sweetheart.
They caused the election commissioner to have to retire. They let him retire, and so they published a national story about this poll tape. It's so significant. Nobody has ever caught it that close on record to realize that you cannot do that in addition, right? And so it really, and I got pushed to the national stage after that, and so that put me into the election security realm. And so we have tried to replicate that across other jurisdictions where you take a picture of the poll tape and just try to enshrine what was committed to the record. None really ever gets committed to the record,
right?
Unless you're at that polling place.
Right. Let me ask this specifically then. Are you saying then that the way you all operate, again, what I'm trying to gather from the 501c3 is what is a procedure that you are using to secure elections?
She's training. We're creating apparatuses and concepts and methods of practice, best practices, and then anyone who wants to get involved in policing our republic, because that's really what we need to do, that this organization is training them.
So when somebody invests in your 501c3, they're investing in securing elections all over the country.
Absolutely.
And the way that is going to be done as with teaching, etc. Correct me if I'm wrong. The way that will be done with teaching, etc., is that you will be sampling into different precincts as well.
Yes.
What is actually
even further than that, lawsuits.
But let's be very specific. So the first step of it is that we have to collaborate with organizations all over the country, and we work with people across the political spectrum. We are nonpartisan. We work with progressives, with conservatives, with libertarians, green, everybody. We want everybody. And especially we need organizations. So we've connected with a number of organizations here, like State Voices. We met the organizers here, and they have 1,200 organizations they're working with. And we also work with Andrea Miller at Center for Common Ground. And she has people in at least 18 states now.
Have you worked with Greg Palast at all?
Yes.
So, but Greg focuses on something different. Greg is really focusing on the front end. He's focusing on voter suppression. Yeah. And there is a lot of emphasis on voter suppression. It's very important. But we are focused on the part that has not been covered yet. So we're collaborating with those organizations. And then once we get their members motivated and excited, then we have training sessions. We teach them how they have to get a certificate in most states. So we have to know the rules in all 50 states.
Right.
What is a poll watcher allowed to do? What type of certification do they need? We train them to go into the polling place and collect data. This is one of the things that's been missing from election protection is the collection of data. How many people signed into the electronic poll book? How many people actually scanned a ballot? How many ballots are scanned? Are they the same? They're supposed to be the same. If those numbers aren't the same, that is your first red flag. And then if you take a picture of the poll tape and you check whether or not the election results that are published match that, and they don't, that's another red flag, right? So we're actually training people and getting them to understand how their elections work, and then they start to understand how they can find out if they're not working correctly. And the best part of it is that a lot of it is preventative. If people are there on the ground, observing, in place, watching, then there is less opportunity for somebody's not going to go in there and start messing with things when people are there and watching and paying attention.
So what are you doing for 2025 November? You put in people in, let's say, Virginia and New Jersey?
We are focused on 2 races. We are focused on, there's a number of races in Virginia that are competitive. And in November, the mayor's race in New York City. Those are the 2 that we're going to be rolling out election protection. And part of that is, again, another sort of scaling up a larger pilot program. And then also we've got our state and regional teams that are moving into place now. It takes a while to get people motivated, to understand, train.
Well, this is,
so,
it's not a sexy subject. It's
No.
a boring
Oh my
subject.
God.
So I mean,
It's dense.
unfortunately, it is an important and serious subject, but it's not a sexy subject, and you guys have to make it that way.
Yeah.
You guys have to find a way to show the importance of what you're doing, and that's the reason. Sometimes I come with some pressured answers. It's like,
Yeah.
how are you going to get the attention of people? People get mad at the end of the election, but all the processes that gets involved, they're not very concerned about that. You, as a 501c3,
Yes,
taking
yes.
money from people saying we need to do this, it is your job to actually make it sexy for all of us to actually want to do it.
You know, I always say passion is not a substitute for skill, and so
Say that again?
passion is not a substitute for skill.
No, it's not.
And so
No,
what
it's
happens
not.
is
You're
after
right.
those elections, you have these really passionate groups. They rise up, and we did a show. We did like a show.
Yeah.
We did lots of education
We did a
and
forum
training.
for 3.5 years.
Lots of education and training where we're explaining what these things are. And so our job at Smart Elections, where I'm a technical advisor, is to disseminate as much
And
information
let me
as
tell you,
possible.
that's why you're here. That's why you're here, and that's what. Let me tell you what the work that you guys are doing is very important work. It's very serious work.
Mm-hmm.
I remain with the statement: you got to make it sexy to
Look,
get it out there.
if
So
anybody
let me-
saw like the we are laughing. It's really hard to make these dense subjects palatable for long stretches of time, and
you
so
are
we try to
absolutely
make
right.
it so.
But
We
you know
even
what?
entertain while we're doing it, so that and
You're
I'll catch
so
her every
right,
now and
but
then.
you know what? You're right, but it's your job to do it.
It is.
You know?
Absolutely,
It is.
and we enjoy doing that. And
Yeah.
one of the things, it's just we have a great team now. We have so many people after the
And
2024 election.
not only that, you also have a great speaker in Lulu.
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
I mean, you are a great promoter
Yes.
of this. Look, we got to get out of here. So give me
Okay.
a closer.
That'd be great. We would love for people to go to our website. It is smartelections.us. And there's a lot of information there. There's actually a link where you can click and fill out a Google form that you want to get involved in election protection. So please do fill that out. Sign up for our Substack. If you want to see sexy information about this, that Substack, there is a lot of stuff on there that tells you actual things that you have never thought about before, problems with the elections that you will want to know about. And I will encourage people to donate. We estimate that we need to raise $500,000 in order to really do the most comprehensive, robust, data-based election protection in U.S. history for the 2026 midterms. And we absolutely encourage people to donate. It is tax deductible.
Lulu and Benny, thank you very much for the work that you guys are doing. It's important work, and you are making sure that our freedom remains. So thank you so kindly. And I don't say that short. I don't say that facetiously. Thank
Okay.
you for what you guys are doing.
All
What
right.
a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's ideal. Thank you.
All right, folks. I hope you got a whole lot out of that. Bruce, we are supposed to be having Netroots Nation. I think it's Philadelphia next year. I want to lay some numbers out, because when we have misinformation coming from, especially from sort of a racist perspective, I think it needs to be corrected for our entire audience. Mike Cisak says he made a comment that needs to be addressed immediately. He said, yes, regulations and restrictions are often lax in rural areas. Despite that, gun violence is very low in rural areas compared to city areas. And that needs to be addressed. Rural areas have less people, right? If you want to subscribe to our Substack, it is http politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I just put it in there now. I think that is correct. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. All right. So let me correct the record, and I need to do this quickly, because he's absolutely wrong. You see, there are not a lot of people in rural areas. If you look at Texas looks big and red with a few blue dots. The problem is the blue dots is where people live. The red dots are expansive land ownership with a very few people. But when you look at the data, and I know data ain't sexy, but also lies are wrong, and we have to correct that. Let's get some numbers. A recent study by Columbia, and I'll put it on the screen for you. All right? A recent study by Columbia University and Children's Hospitals of Philadelphia reveals from 2011 to 2020, The most rural counties had a 37% higher overall death rate than most urban counties by guns. Gun suicide rates in the rural counties were 76% higher, while gun homicides rates were 46% lower compared to most urban areas. So again, you see the disparity here. 25% higher overall firearms death rate in most rural counties versus urban. 54% higher suicide rates in rural counties, but 50% lower homicide rates per capita. Rural counties had the highest overall rates of gun deaths among young aged 1 through 19. Gun suicides most prevalent rural areas where homicides peaked in large metropolitan areas. In 2016 to 2020, rural communities experienced a 40% total gun, a higher total gun death rate compared with large metropolitan areas. Many of the counties with the highest per capita gun homicides during the period were rural. Two leading examples are Phillips County, Arkansas, and Lowndes County, Alabama. National data from CDC shows an overall firearm death rate of 14.0 per 1,000 population, though it doesn't distinguish between rural and urban. So when people try to just make it seem like all this gun stuff is occurring in urban areas, the gun problem is a national problem that affects everybody. And it's incumbent on moral people. It's incumbent on you to try to solve the gun issue instead of trying to make it a racialized issue, which is what the conservatives, or not the conservatives, the MAGA folks in our chat is doing right now. Let's look at reality. The reality is gun as a violent entity. And by the way, suicide is violence against oneself. Come on now. Let's not try to mix metaphors here. Let's not try to mix metaphors here. Humanity is humanity, whether you're killing yourself or you're killing somebody else. And again, I repeat, guns are a problem. And guns mixed with poverty is a huge problem. And that is what we're seeing. Let's not racialize these issues. Let's look at these issues for what they really are. My white brothers and sisters in Appalachia and other regions are dying by many methods. Whether it be guns, whether it be the pusher selling them fentanyl, they're dying. They're dying by all kinds of violence. They're dying by the violence imposed on them by Donald Trump and the cutting of by Republicans and Donald Trump cutting their services and messing with their minds. All of these things are complicit in the deaths of people. I'm not going to let you get away with that, my dear brother. You won't. We have to solve Americans' problems the way it is meant to be solved. We, the American people, have a gun problem. And the people that are most responsible for the gun problems and the violence in our country are, in fact, the Republican orthodoxy. Anyway, folks, I got to get out of here. I'd like to ask all of you who have the wherewithal to do so to please go ahead and support our program by becoming paid subscribers of Politics Done Right. And the way to do that is to go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. And I'm putting all of that on the screen right now. Please support our program. That is how we can, when we have people that try to create friction among us, when we have people that try to do these evil things, we have to have that pushback and ready. Lastly, before I go, do not allow the message to change to law and order for the 2026 election. Anytime they push law and order for the 26th election, make sure to identify that the ones causing the violence is the Republican orthodoxy, and flip it immediately back to the big bad bill killing people via healthcare, killing people via poverty, and everything else. It's imperative that we do that. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.